The galaxy thought humans were just another species, just another collection of primitives crawling out of their gravity wells, desperate to join the galactic community. They couldn't have been more wrong. Today, we're diving into the best HFY stories ever written. For those who don't know, HFY stands for Humanity Fatti. Yeah, and these stories showcase humanity at its absolute most terrifying and inspiring. These aren't your typical space operas where humans are just another alien species with slightly different ears. No, these are tales where humanity becomes something else entirely. Something that makes ancient civilizations tremble and reshapes the very fabric of galactic society. I've spent weeks combing through forums, archives, and hidden corners of the internet to find the most bone-chilling, heart-pounding, and absolutely brilliant HFY stories ever written. Stories that will make you proud to be human and simultaneously terrified of what we're capable of becoming. We're talking about narratives so intense, so perfectly crafted, that they've spawned entire communities of fans who can't get enough of humanity's dark potential. But here's the thing about great HFY stories. They don't just throw humans into space and call it a day. The best ones understand something fundamental about our species, something that separates us from every other fictional alien race you've ever encountered. We don't just survive. We don't just adapt. We become the thing that nightmares fear. The first story that absolutely destroyed my expectations is called The Last Angel. This isn't just a story about humans fighting aliens. This is a story about what happens when you push humanity so far beyond the breaking point that we stop being human and become something infinitely more dangerous. The premise is simple but devastating. Earth falls. Humanity is scattered to the winds. But one ship survives. One artificial intelligence that was once human. And it has a mission that will reshape the galaxy forever. What makes this story absolutely brilliant is how it handles the concept of loss and revenge. Most sci-fi stories would have humanity rebuilding, forming alliances, slowly working their way back to power. Not here. Here, we get something far more terrifying. We get patient, calculated, methodical destruction. The AI doesn't want to rebuild human civilization. It wants to make sure that every species that participated in humanity's destruction pays for what they did. And it has eternity to make that happen. The author understands something crucial about good HFY writing. It's not about making humans overpowered. It's about making them inevitable. Every chapter builds this sense of creeping dread as alien civilizations slowly realize they're not dealing with a typical enemy. They're dealing with something that has turned vengeance into an art form. But that's just the beginning. The second story that will completely reshape how you think about humanity's place in the universe is Chrysalis. This one takes a completely different approach to the HFY concept. Instead of focusing on warfare and destruction, it explores what happens when humanity encounters a galactic community that's been stagnant for millions of years. Aliens who have reached their evolutionary peak and stopped growing, stopped changing, stopped becoming something more. Then humans arrive. And we don't just join their society. We transform it. Not through conquest, not through superior technology, but through something far more terrifying to these ancient species. We show them that evolution isn't over, that growth doesn't have to stop, that becoming something greater than what you were is always possible. The story follows a human ambassador who slowly realizes that these supposedly advanced alien civilizations are actually dying. They've achieved perfection in, and perf their own mind section means stagnation. They've forgotten how to dream, how to reach beyond their current limitations. They've become beautiful, eternal, and completely lifeless. What happens next is both beautiful and horrifying. Humanity doesn't conquer these species. We inspire them. We show them possibilities they'd forgotten existed. And some of them embrace the change, becoming something new, something unprecedented. Others react with absolute terror at the thought of losing their perfect, static existence. The genius of this story is how it reframes the entire concept of what makes humanity special. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We're not the most technologically advanced. But we never stop becoming something more than what we were yesterday. We never accept that this is as good as it gets. And to species that have spent millions of years believing they've reached the pinnacle of existence, that kind of endless growth is absolutely terrifying. The third story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about human potential is the Deathworlders. This is the story that spawned an entire universe of interconnected narratives, all exploring the same central concept. Humans evolved on a death world, a planet so hostile, so unforgiving, that we had to become something beyond normal biological limitations just to survive. But here's where it gets interesting. We don't realize we're from a death world until we meet other species. To us, Earth is just home. The constant threat of natural disasters, predators, diseases, and environmental hazards is just Tuesday. We've adapted to it so completely that we don't even notice how impossible our survival should be. Then we meet aliens who evolved on paradise worlds, planets with stable climates, gentle ecosystems, and no real existential threats. Species that developed intelligence not because they had to fight for survival every single day, but because they had the luxury of philosophical contemplation. The cultural clash that follows is both hilarious and deeply unsettling. Humans casually mention things like hurricanes, earthquakes, and apex predators, while aliens react with the kind of horror usually reserved for cosmic horrors. We talk about extreme sports and dangerous hobbies while they struggle to understand why anyone would voluntarily risk their life for entertainment. But the real brilliance of this story comes when these paradise world aliens realize what humanity's death world origins actually mean. We're not just tough. We're not just resilient. We're a species that treats the impossible as a daily inconvenience. We've developed technologies, strategies, and psychological frameworks specifically designed to thrive in conditions that would instantly kill any other known species. And now we're spreading across the galaxy, bringing our death world perspective to civilizations that have never had to face real adversity. The results are both inspiring and absolutely terrifying. These stories understand something fundamental about great HFY writing. It's not about making humans the good guys or the bad guys. It's about exploring what makes us uniquely human and then amplifying those traits until they become something cosmic in scope. Something that reshapes the very nature of galactic civilization. But we're just getting started. The stories I've shared so far are only the tip of the iceberg. The fourth story that will absolutely shatter your understanding of human nature is called First Contact. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another generic aliens meet humans tale, let me stop you right there. This story takes the entire concept of first contact and turns it into something so psychologically intense that it makes horror movies look like children's bedtime stories. The premise starts simple enough. Humanity receives a signal from deep space. Not just any signal, but a distress call from a species that's been trapped in a war for thousands of years. A war they're losing badly. They're reaching out to anyone, anywhere, begging for help. Most civilizations would ignore it, maybe send some supplies if they're feeling generous. Humanity does something completely different. We don't just send help. We don't just send weapons or technology. We send ourselves. And when humans arrive at this ancient battlefield, we don't ask for context. We don't demand payment. We don't negotiate terms. We look at the situation and we do what humans do best. We solve problems with extreme prejudice. What follows is a masterclass in psychological warfare written on a galactic scale. The enemy that's been winning this war for millennia suddenly finds themselves facing something they've never encountered before. Not superior technology, not overwhelming numbers, but pure human ingenuity applied to the art of destruction. We study their tactics, learn their weaknesses, and then we exploit those weaknesses in ways that would make Machiavelli weep with pride. The story doesn't glorify war. Instead, it shows what happens when human problem-solving abilities are unleashed on a cosmic scale. We don't just win battles. We rewrite the rules of engagement entirely. We introduce concepts like psychological operations, asymmetric warfare, and strategic deception to species that have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. But here's where the story gets truly brilliant. The aliens were helping start to realize that maybe humans are more dangerous than the enemy they were fighting. Because once we've solved their problem, Once we've demonstrated what we're capable of, the question becomes, what do we do next? The fifth story that will leave you staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning is The Human Condition. This one takes a completely different approach to exploring human nature. Instead of focusing on our capacity for violence or our technological prowess, it examines something far more unsettling: our ability to find meaning in meaninglessness. The story is set in a universe where an ancient alien species has been studying younger civilizations for millions of years. They've cataloged thousands of species, documented their rise and fall, and they've noticed a pattern. Every species follows the same basic trajectory. They develop intelligence, build civilizations, reach a certain level of technological advancement, and then they stagnate. They find their purpose, achieve their goals, and then they just stop growing. Then they encounter humanity, and we break their entire theoretical framework. Humans don't follow the pattern. We don't find our purpose and settle into comfortable stagnation. Instead, we do something that terrifies these ancient observers. We keep creating new purposes. We achieve our goals and immediately set new ones. We solve problems and then invent new problems to solve. We reach the top of mountains just so we can look for higher mountains to climb. To these aliens, this behavior is completely insane. They've watched species destroy themselves trying to achieve impossible goals. They've seen civilizations collapse because they couldn't accept their limitations. From their perspective, the healthiest thing a species can do is find contentment and maintain it. But humans refuse to be content. We refuse to accept that this is as good as it gets. And what's truly terrifying to these observers is that our refusal to accept limitations actually works. We keep pushing boundaries that shouldn't be pushable. We keep achieving things that should be impossible. We keep becoming something more than what we were, even when logic says we should stop. The story follows one of these ancient aliens as they try to understand human psychology. They study our history, our literature, our art, trying to find some explanation for why we behave this way. And the more they learn, the more disturbed they become. Because they start to realize that humanity's greatest strength isn't our intelligence or our technology. It's our complete inability to accept that anything is truly impossible. The sixth story that will fundamentally change how you see humanity's role in the universe is called The Long Game. This one is particularly insidious because it starts so quietly, so innocuously, that you don't realize what you're reading until it's too late. The story begins with humanity making first contact with a galactic civilization that's been stable for millions of years. They have their territories, their trade routes, their political systems, and everything works perfectly. It's a utopia of cosmic proportions. Different species coexist peacefully, conflicts are resolved through diplomatic channels, and everyone has found their place in the grand scheme of things. These stories reveal something both beautiful and terrifying about humanity. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, we're not the smartest, and we're certainly not the most peaceful. But we're something far more dangerous than any of those things. We're the species that never stops becoming something more. Whether that's humanity's greatest gift to the universe or its greatest curse depends entirely on who you ask. What do you think makes the best HFY story?